all about Instagram. As a real estate agent, you know that you've got questions about how do you leverage this? How do you actually get results from it? Not just be present, but how do you get actual appointments and deals that close for Instagram to where it's actually a good investment of your time? Today's guest, Shelby Lehman, is going to answer those questions. And she's someone that you're going to want to follow at Marketing for Realtors on Instagram. And you're going to love this episode. She goes deep on a lot of really great topics. It's going to be a very valuable show for you to listen and apply and update and improve your Instagram presence. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart, here to answer all of your questions about Instagram, or at least a lot of them. I'm thrilled to have with me someone who I get to work with indirectly. She's out of the Arizona market. I'm going to introduce her here in just a second. She's absolutely fabulous. Before I do that, let me remind you that inside of the Think Bigger Real Estate group on Facebook, we take snippets of this show and we put it in very bite-sized sizes for you to be able to digest and implement into your business. So if you're not yet a member of the Think Bigger Real Estate group on Facebook, please be sure and go join there. You'll get a lot of value from that. Back to today's guest. She's become a friend of mine, someone who I really look to and admire the way that she does Instagram. It's absolutely fabulous. Her name is Shelby Lehman. She's out of the Arizona market. She's with Old Republic Title. Shelby, thank you for coming on the Think Bigger Real Estate Show today. It's a total pleasure to have you on, and I'm excited to learn from you and have this audience learn from you.
Thank you so much, Justin. I am honored to be invited because you have had some really incredible guests. So when I got the reach out, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course. Just tell me when.
Well, a couple of them. I got to give it actually a shout out to some of the people who you've actually connected us with. Kevin Owens, Shannon Gillette. I know some great people out of your market down there. And you're again, and kind of the way that I think you and I both think is that we like to see ourselves. In fact, I loved what you put on Instagram the other day. If you don't want a cheerleader, but you want a coach, DM me. I think that's absolutely just is very clear on the value that you bring. And I think the difference that both you and I are bringing into the title and escrow industry is that long has been this era in which if you were super friendly and had a company credit card and could take people to lunch and be friends with them, that was good enough to get business. And as long as your escrow officer was great. And I think you and I both believe that the onus is on us first and foremost to start off bringing lots of value. And I see you do that, actually acting as much of a coach as anything, and much less of a cheerleader, which I don't know that, I'm sure real estate agents appreciate that, but they would appreciate somebody who is actually treating their business like a business, like you are, that they can learn from. So thank you for being that person.
Yeah, no, thank you. You pretty much hit it on the head, just being more of a coach, an advisor, someone that helps them move the needle. And that's one of the biggest differentiators too, is actually helping people grow their business, because anyone can buy lunch, but it takes a different kind of skill set to actually help people build.
I love it. The way that I like to look at it is it's the job of the escrow officer to be sure that you've got a very smooth, amazing closing. It's my job to be sure you have more closings, right? And that's kind of how I see it. I know the stuff that you do on Instagram, this is a perfect segue into what we want to talk about today, because I know some people kind of use Instagram as it's a fun tool. It's a way to connect with people. It's a way to kind of show photos of what's going on in their life. You really use it as a business tool. And I think that's really what we want to get into today, is the stuff that you teach, the stuff that you help agents do, actually brings them more business, right? Actually helps them get more escrows, not just good escrows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. And it just makes sense for pretty much every agent. I definitely have clients that don't leverage Instagram how I would love for them to. But once they get it, and once they start seeing the results, then it becomes addicting. Then it's a total mindset shift, because most of us were raised, I know when I am around my family, they see me on my phone on Instagram and they think it's play. They don't realize I'm hustling. Like, I'm working here on Instagram. It's not just play. So it's a mindset shift. And it's hard for agents at first to allocate the time to Instagram, because you're having to rewire your brain really on how you approach social media. But once you start seeing the results, it's like amazing. They can be around the world still getting business, getting leads, so that there's less inconsistencies in the business too. It just makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. And in case anybody doesn't make it all the way to the end of the show, I want to be sure that you know where to find Shelby, because the best thing that you can get today out of today's episode is that you go follow on Instagram, the @Marketing for Realtors Instagram page. Go find that page, and you'll get a tutorial every day on how you should be doing Instagram. So again, in case you didn't catch that, that is her handle, at Marketing for Realtors on Instagram. So Shelby, let's get into, I know that there's some questions that have come. In fact, let's get to those here in just a minute. Tell me, why do you feel that Instagram makes total sense for real estate agents?
So, I mean, to keep it really simple, it's about relationships. And this industry is all about relationships. I can already hear any real estate agent watching this, might be thinking, well, it has nothing to in-person meetings. Of course, I use Instagram to get more meetings, and it fast tracks relationships. It makes it easier to maintain the relationships, more consistent. When you're someone who's not using social media as a real estate agent, and there's these monumental life events happening in your clients' lives, like they get engaged, they maybe have a death in the family, like some crazy stuff that's happening in their lives, you're not going to get that in an email from the client. They might not even bring it up on the phone, but they might post an Instagram story saying, hey guys, sorry, I'm going to be taking a break because I just had a major death in the family. You don't get that unless you're following them, unless you're staying engaged. And then it opens up an opportunity for you to actually reach out to that client, for you to maybe show up for them in a way that other people are not, because they're not putting the effort. Like, it's a great opportunity to show people how much you really care about them. When I see that someone's overwhelmed, someone who I really care about on social media, I'm going to reach out to them, and I'm going to start brainstorming ways how I can show up for them. It just makes sense when you use it the right way. Of course, people are doing like drive-by social media. They're always trying to optimize, the best way, and it kind of waters down the relationship building potential. But at the heart of it, when done correctly, it's one of the most powerful relationship fast tracking softwares. I had a lunch with someone who works at Open Door like a couple years ago, and they brought up something that I thought was like amazing, great perspective. They said, 20 years ago, you told business owners there's going to be something that's free. You get to see what's going on in your clients' lives. You get to educate them, and it happens in real time. And you get to find out when their birthdays are, what their kids' names are, what they're doing, where they're going on vacation. Every business owner would be like, honestly, hell yeah. Like, yeah, what do we have to do to get on that? Well, that's social media, but so many people are just totally taking it for granted, and they're not seeing the bigger picture to it in the long game either. So that was a lot of words. So I'm assuming that.
And they were all amazing. I think a point that you pointed out there is that it's all about building relationships. And some people, like you say, might say, well, it'll never take the place of that. And what you're saying is it's not designed to take the place of the face-to-face. It's designed to get you more of the face-to-face. And so that when you do have the face-to-face, you actually have more in common. You have more to talk about. You actually know what's going on in their life, to where now all of a sudden the relationship can go deeper more quickly, as opposed to these surface level, kind of transient conversations that aren't very meaningful. Like when you know that something significant has happened in someone's life, and you can get face-to-face and talk about that, as opposed to how's the weather, right? It totally changes everything. So I love what you said. And I would even encourage everybody listening here that of all the things that Shelby's going to talk about today, that one principle will help all of us. Is that if the way in which you're using Instagram is not helping you get more face-to-face appointments and deepening relationships, then you're doing something wrong, right? And I think probably we're all doing some things wrong. And I think probably we're all doing some things right. So don't be so hard on yourself. But if we're looking to improve, the reality is it ought to be building relationships, is what I just pulled from you. And that's just an amazing nugget, Shelby. So thank you for sharing that. Tell me, I know oftentimes Instagram can be kind of overwhelming, right? Especially with all the changes. There's so many things that are updating all these features and everything. And we're going to get into some specific questions that have come from the audience prior to this. They knew you were coming on. They were eager to hear from you. And so I've got a whole lineup of questions here. So before we get to those, can you just answer this question? What does a real estate agent do to keep Instagram from being so overwhelming, to where it's like, you know what, I'm just going to keep using it as like a place to post my pictures and I'm out, right? Because there's so much to do. How do you coach somebody with that?
So I start with understanding what their day-to-day schedule looks like right now, because I am confident that we all waste so much time that we're not tracking, because very few people actually track how much time they're spending throughout the day on certain activities. And most of us are just general procrastinators. So that's one thing, and really putting it on paper, how much time you have to spend on Instagram. Now, in total honesty, yes, Instagram does require intention and some strategy and some thought. And I spend several hours on Instagram a day, but it doesn't feel overwhelming because I prioritize first like mental health. I'm not someone who is like really about the grind culture. And I start with first, what can you consistently keep up with? I'm not going to tell people you need to be making a post every single day, because I think, yes, that would be an ideal world for us all to be making multiple feed posts a day like Gary Vee, but most of us don't have those big teams. And what I've seen time and time again is these agents are being told, you've got to be posting every single day. They're being told the advice from an ideal perspective, but they're not living an ideal world. And they're not able to keep up with it, which then leads them to not execute at all. So I always prioritize what is actually going to lead to some execution, and what can you consistently do. So for me, for my feed posts, I post like once every couple of weeks, because the thing is, I'd rather create content that's intentional, that's going to get high engagement, because the Instagram algorithm is based off of like 6 different pillars, with frequency being like one of the pillars and timeliness being the other. The rest have nothing to do with how much you post per day. Now, it's a balance. You do have to be posting enough to learn about what your audience likes. And yeah, it does increase your odds of being in their feeds. But the truth is, more and more people are spending more time in stories, and you have to create content where the attention is. So there's a balance to it. But I think the biggest thing when I meet with agents, and that like aha moment where I've been told so many times, are like, thank you so much for the permission that I don't have to put so much pressure on myself to be making a feed post every single day. I'm like, that's an ideal circumstance. Like, let's start with some practical pieces, because also a lot of these agents that are posting every single day, the content is a ton of stock imagery, or it's a ton of stuff that no one actually cares about. It's not changing lives. It's not relevant to their life either. And I think it's missing the point of the relationship piece too. I go back and forth, because social media, you do see some of the stuff that people blame on social media, but social media can also be used for so many good things. So I think it's about finding a balance. And I think it's not a success when someone comes to you and they're like, I feel like social media is ruining my life, or I feel so burnt out of Instagram. I'm like, okay, we need to change something, because it has to be fun for you to continue to do it. And if you go gung-ho, I'm gonna make a post every single day, and then you run out of all your good content in a week, that's not a success. And it actually hurts you more in the long run. So I think that shift is like the number one thing of giving yourself permission to not have to make a feed post every single day. Because the truth is, you don't have this giant team. You don't have 24/7 to be just focused on creating content, when you do have things like having to teach your daughter, homeschooling right now, and there's other stuff. There's a difference between documenting your day too. There's a lot of variables, but ultimately the biggest step to not feeling so overwhelmed is realizing that execution is more important than perfection. And just being able to consistently execute is the most important thing. So if consistently executing for you is once a week, is once a month is pushing it. But if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. Because I want to see people on Instagram months, years from now. I don't want to see them. I'm going to go gung-ho for 30 days. And then they're so wiped out, exhausted, because they've been comparing themselves to these people whose sole job is to create content, or they do have a team. There's ways to leverage the scheduling platforms too that people aren't doing. There's different personality types. I'm someone, I can't schedule out content. I have to be like feeling it in the moment to post. But there's some people like that makes their life so much easier to just spend 30 minutes on a Sunday posting, scheduling the content out for the next week or 2 weeks. And then that's great too. Everything's kind of custom to the client. Everyone has different needs and different, I think, tolerance levels too. But the biggest thing is figuring out what can you consistently execute and then go from there.
So let's talk about one of the tactical things. I love what you said there. In fact, I think it really if you're looking at your news feed, I was actually surprised last week or the week before, my assistant and I were learning from you. And it's like, she has like an engagement picture that happened a long time ago. And it was like one of like near the top of your tiles. And I thought, wow, because I follow you almost every day on stories. And it just, to me, spoke to how much you prioritize stories, right? And I think it goes back to the original principle that you taught, which is if it doesn't actually generate a relationship, then it's not as important as that stuff that can. And I know the way that you do stories is you're always asking questions, you're doing polls, you're inviting people to direct message you. Like, it's a very interactive experience. Whereas oftentimes with the newsfeed, it's not. It's kind of a one way. I like to say it's like people use social media, and I tend to be guilty of this as well, as a megaphone, right? It's like I've got some things I want to share with the world. Whereas I think where it really becomes a more powerful tool is where you use it as a way of listening, right? As a way to really gather information from your people so that you can go serve them. You mentioned, so back to my question about a tactical thing, you said some people like to schedule out their content. Now I know on Facebook there's tools for that. Is there one that or built into Facebook, there's tools for that? I don't know of any that are built in for Instagram to do that. Do you? Or is it a third party like Hootsuite or something?
So you can use a lot of third parties, but if you have a Facebook or an Instagram creator account, like the setting is creator account, you then have access to Facebook's Creator Studio, which allows you to schedule out content. So then that's like not a third party anymore. It's Creator Studio within Facebook. It's a little tricky to get to, but it's like desktop only. But most of my clients who do schedule out content use something like Planoly, I don't know how to say it, but I say Planoly. And then later Hootsuite, those ones. I like Agorapulse too. There's some that are good for scheduling, like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So if it was a real estate agent who is active on all those platforms, definitely look for something that can handle, so you have like all-in-one shop, solutions, so you don't have to have multiple scheduling tools.
Love it. So this, I know one of the questions that came up, and this is kind of a piggybacking on a comment that you just made about personal versus business. I know you and I are both kind of very united in the fact that a business account is important for you to have. Do you agree with that? I want to make sure we agree. I think we agree.
Yes. It needs to be a business or creator setting. Of course, you have some people that are incredibly protective of certain pictures from their personal life, especially with stuff going on in the news. And I really respect that. But in order to grow your sphere, it's got to be a business or creator setting.
Okay. So what is the difference between a business and a creator setting?
Okay. So the differences are minute. Someone who's visiting your profile probably won't ever notice unless they know a ton about Instagram and are like looking for these details. But the biggest thing, this is so silly and like trivial, but the biggest thing with creator accounts, why people are switching, is because they get the music sticker back. And a lot of people with the business setting in their accounts do not have the music sticker. I've been hearing rumors that they're starting to bring it back for business accounts. It's a really weird thing. But when I switched to creator account from a business like a year ago, took 3 days, and then all of a sudden the music sticker came back. Some of the things, so just thinking about what they were made, like when Facebook made the creator account, it was made with like the bloggers, the influencers in mind. So in the business accounts, obviously are with straight like B2B businesses or brick and mortar businesses in mind. So they have options like with the contact buttons on the profile. A business setting account will see things like book now or reserve a table, those type of contact options. You don't get like the book a table contact button when you make it a creator setting. They limit that list because most influencers don't need that. It's a different type of need for that account. Creator accounts as well lose the option to have a link to maps. So like if you have a business setting, not only do you get, the website URL, but you also get an option to put your physical address there. People can tap on it and it will go to maps. But if it's a creator account, that like map option isn't there anymore. That's really like minor. Most real estate agents don't care about that anyways. And then with creator accounts too, lead generating ads, like lead form ads on Instagram go away. But what's really cool is you can like switch back and forth. and there's no penalty. Like I've done that when I wanted to run a lead form ad on Instagram, and I realized I couldn't do that on Creator. So I just switched it to business, and then I switched it back like a week later or 2 weeks later. So there are little minor differences with Creator settings. You do get like another layer of your inbox, because if you think about it, these influencers, these bloggers are getting a ton of direct messages. So Instagram's made it a little bit easier for them to stay organized. Well, for people who are using Instagram as if it's, you know, kind of like a CRM, that second layer of the inbox is so much better too for staying organized. There's these little like minor things and the differences on the back end. You know, you do get access to different analytics if you have a Creator account too. Most of them are all pros to create, you know, choosing a Creator account. So those are the little differences.
So it sounds like for a real estate agent, mortgage loan officer listening to this, you'd probably recommend a Creator account is what it sounds like. Is it the pros outweigh the cons?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. Let's get to some other questions here. I've got some people that have asked. I know you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but the algorithm, right? It's come up, this concept of you know, we have, obviously we're kind of playing on someone else's home field, right? We're playing on Instagram's court. We got to play by their rules. I want to point something else out here that you said. There's a thought that I had. I don't want to forget it. And you said, I think oftentimes people spend so much time on algorithms for Instagram that they forget that the key is actually to learn information about your clients. Like that's the information that matters the most. I don't know if you said it exactly like that, but that's what it triggered for me, and I thought it was brilliant. So thank you for sharing that. So again, back to the question of algorithms. If 1/3 of them, right, if 2 of the 6 pillars are timeliness and frequency, what are some of the others? I don't expect you to know them or have them all, but like, what are some of the other ones? I would assume engagement, and like, what else should people be doing to kind of hack the Instagram algorithm to be sure that more people see their stuff?
So the rest of the algorithm really prioritizes your relationship with the person on the other side, and the relevancy that they think the content is, you know, how relevant is it to the person on the other side. How many people they're following also dictates how their Instagram feed looks like. There are so many different factors. You know, I don't know if you've probably already heard this, but like you and I can be following the exact same people, but our feeds will look totally different because Instagram's algorithm is so complex that it's going to determine like, okay, I saw that Justin was looking at this photo of this, you know, cat for longer than, you know, Shelby was looking. So it's going to prioritize different content based off the relationship. How long we use Instagram and how long we spend in the feed will also dictate how it's laid out. So Instagram by now should know that I rarely spend time consuming feed content. So when I do go there, it shows me like the highlights of the people that I've been following. If Instagram saw that I was spending more time scrolling through the feed, it's going to not necessarily be as chronological or it's going to be more chronological because it knows that I'm spending more time there, so that I've already seen that post that was from 2 days ago. But now when I log into Instagram, it shows me posts that are like from 3 days ago, from 4 days ago, at the top, because it knows I'm rarely there. So it shows me the highlight reel. There's so many different variables, but the biggest ones that I think people should, if you're going to stress about the algorithm, just stress about creating content that is as relevant and value added as possible for people. And value add is different because there's social currency involved. So value add could be that it's just a big emotional trigger for the person on the other side, in a good way, emotional trigger, that it makes them seem smarter if they share it with a friend, or it improves their life in some way, you know, or it's like super rapport building. So there's all these different, you know, ways to be a valuable post or create a valuable post. It doesn't just have to be like tip, 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 tip.
I love it.
But there's a lot of layers to the algorithm for sure.
I love that. I think that's, and again, kind of going back to like, okay, what's the key takeaway for real estate agents is actually know your people well enough to be able to put out content that they like, be engaged enough in their activity that it triggers them to see your stuff, right? I think you've kind of, you know, given us some great nuggets. Let me jump on to the next question here. Do you go live on Instagram? That was a question from Ollie Beebe from the Facebook Real Estate Group. Is this something that you do? other than
I
today?
don't agree. You probably noticed that, like, I never go Instagram live, because it's rare to watch an entire live, and I feel like most of what I'm doing, there's very few, like, this is a cool thing where you have these different guests from around the country, as guests. That's like a great reason to go live. But I see a lot of people going live for these situations that really aren't honestly that like scroll stopping, that like you're going to interrupt. Like, am I really going to stop what I'm doing, stop checking in on my friends to watch this live? Rarely. So I try not to do too many lives because I'd rather focus that energy on engaging with other people and doing stories. If I was doing something like literally like interviewing someone really awesome, or if I was at like a crazy good speaking event, I might go live. But the truth is, most of my day to day, I don't consider to be like live material. So I just don't do Instagram live very often.
Great. Awesome. I think some people feel
Yeah,
like
that's just
maybe they need to
my
in order to
personal
be
preference.
relevant.
Yeah.
I think, and so I think that's great insight. Your opinion, pictures or videos? What's the preference? This is from David Bravo Jr.
David Bravo. So the algorithm, Instagram like came out this year and was like, we treat videos and photos the same in the algorithm. And again, is personal preference, and it's all about being very aware of what your audience cares about. Some people prefer on their feed to show all of the video views because that's always going to be higher than the number of likes that are on a photo. So they just like seeing that number. It's kind of like, like a vanity thing that they like having on their feed. I don't do videos a lot on my feed because I think about my target audience. They're really quick. They're out and about. They're walking to a different showing. If they're in the feed, they're going to be scrolling. They don't want to watch like something that's a minute long in the Instagram feed. It's like really quick snippets. So for my audience, no, I don't create video. If someone's target audience, they know it's a lot of, stay-at-home moms. It's all about knowing your audience really well. You know that they consume video content. You see them sharing video content. You see them posting video content, and that changes things. But I personally, most of my video content is stories.
Okay, love it. Great answer. Is there a specific time to post to get more traction? What are your thoughts on that? Is there a preferred beneficial time to post versus not to post?
So all depends on the account because every audience is different. Kind of like what I said before, if you might not even realize this, but if most of your followers is a lot of people who work from home, that's gonna be totally different than if there are a bunch of people who work 9 to 5 jobs. Or if, depending on what their work schedule is like. The best thing to do is to go to your insights on your Instagram profile if you have a business or creator setting, and it will show you what days and what times are the best for your account. And I want to say a year and a half ago when I looked, the general thing that I was seeing was that before work started, like before 9 a.m., right after 5 p.m. were peak times for me. But now I checked my insights this morning, the peak time is at noon. So it's just kind of different, and each day is different. I would say if you have to throw out a blanket thing, on most accounts, I've seen that the weekends are some of the lowest points for people's analytics because a lot of people, if you think about the weekend, they're off doing something. They're not on their phones as much as they are, especially right now with so many people working from home. That totally skews the analytics from what it was pre-COVID. So it's all very unique to each profile, but if you had to just like throw out a general statement, I would say probably post around noon during the week. That's probably going to be a safe bet.
Love it. And I think you're, again, plug for having a business account. If you have a business account, it gives you the algorithms to be able to say, let's look, right? Let's look and see what my audience wants. Awesome stuff. Next question here. Let's see, the best way to get followers engaged and interactive. I know you're very good at this. What do you do to get people engaged?
Is to be engaged with them. That is like literally the best. I think I just triggered my Alexa in the background. Somehow that happens throughout the day. But it really is to pour into other people. It's amazing because one, when you pour into other people, like let's be selfish for a little bit and talk about all the benefits of being a giver to other people. It triggers the algorithm because the algorithm's seeing that there's a relationship there. So that helps with the algorithm also on their side too when they engage back with you. So if you're sending them a bunch of DMs, the algorithm is going to see, okay, this is more of a one-way, relationship. But most of the time when you are engaging with other people, they naturally are going to be engaging with you. It is like the craziest thing, unless it's a celebrity account or someone who's like really never paying much attention to their Instagram profile to begin with. They're like a post and then like dip. They go off of Instagram as soon as they post anything. But most cases, people are going to be engaging back with you. They'll be replying to your direct messages. They'll be at least liking your comment on their post. So doing that always helps bring more engagement back to your profile. That's numero uno that most people miss out on. They're not engaging enough with other people. And then the second piece is being very aware of what your people actually care about on Instagram. So if someone's doing number one, they might not be doing number two, where they're actually paying attention. They're treating it like the billboard, and posting about what they want to tell people, but not really what they want to see. So if you take care of those two things, like engagement will never be an issue.
I'll also put another plug in for following you on Instagram. You do a great job of actually in your stories getting people to engage. I'm actually learning a lot from you in that regard. And so I would encourage other people to go do the same. So good stuff. All right, we've got another question here. There were some others here that I'm trying to pull up on Instagram. I apologize if I look a little bit distracted. I'm just trying to be sure we get all of our questions answered. But the other question is about Reels. What are your thoughts on Reels, right? We've got this this new thing that Instagram's pulled out. What are your thoughts?
So now we're already through mid-September. I think Oracle just bought, I think that was the deal that just happened with TikTok last week or this weekend. I think Oracle bought TikTok. So for late August, what I was telling clients when they would ask me about Reels is I would say, let's see what happens in September with TikTok. Because if TikTok really did go away, that's going to be a game changer for Reels. But just looking in the past history, IGTV had so much, kind of like marketing, but like people were talking like, oh my gosh, this is their competitor to YouTube. And are any of us consuming IGTV content on a daily, even weekly basis? Not so much. We're not necessarily seeking out IGTV content. If we follow someone who posts an IGTV video, we'll probably watch it, but we're not really like on the IGTV app. And, they made it like you had to go to a separate app. Reels is a little bit different, and Reels is so new that it doesn't even have really a culture to the content yet. Most of the content on Reels is really similar to what TikTok has already had. And something about Reels too is like TikTok will let you post up to a minute long. Reels is still only up to 15 seconds. So that changes things. Always leaning back on my grounding mindset of what's actually practical, like what is a real estate agent actually going to do. I would say if you at all feel like you're stressed for time and like, I would say hang out without trying to allocate all this time to Reels right now. Now, flip side of that, I do see people creating Reels and they're getting, because they're an early adopter, there's not a ton of content creators. They're getting a ton of exposure on Reels. But they're like, a lot of their sole job is like creating content just in general. Most of my clients are already like so spent on time. I'm like, let's see what happens a little bit before we totally like reroute your time blocking schedule and like your business plans for dedicating to Reels. Because the thing about Reels too is on Instagram, you're only seeing it on people's profiles, the feed, if they, post a feed. And then if you want to like just absorb a bunch of Reel content, you can only do it from the Discover page or the Explore page. And there's not like a sole column to just watch a ton of like reel content, and be searching for reels content. It's really hard actually to start consuming a ton of reels content like you do on TikTok. So the other thing too is a ton of content creators on TikTok right now are very young people, not to discount them because there are more and more older millennials and Gen Zers on TikTok. I even see baby boomers on TikTok. But once a generation leaves a platform, I see it in my age group. A lot of people my age are not on Facebook. They deleted their Facebook accounts. It's all for Instagram. Once they leave a platform, it's really hard to get them to go back. Like, it's really hard. So that's a long-winded answer, and it really depends on the real estate agent, where they're at in their business, their target audience, and their long-term strategies too. Reels content has to be entertaining. Like, it has to be entertaining. That's a thing. And some real estate agents are just naturally better at coming up with these creative ideas. And there is opportunity there right now to get some quick exposure. And to, I've been telling people, I'm like, the few places to go viral with a piece of content without a crazy huge audience already is TikTok and YouTube, maybe Twitter. I haven't seen anyone yet go viral with reels because it's also really hard to get, to consume reels content. Most people are watching reels content by happenstance of just being on Instagram. Most people are not like, can't wait to watch some reels today on Instagram.
I like it's great feedback, and kind of one point I want to kind of highlight, or kind of put an exclamation point behind, which is you had mentioned have some intentionality around it. Does this fit within your business plan? And I think we obviously need to be nimble. We need to be innovative. We need to be able to see an opportunity and seize it. But be sure that these shiny objects that social mediums are constantly throwing at us actually align with your business plan and not just their business plan, right? Their business plan is to keep people on their platform. And so they're doing everything possible to try and do that. So be sure that you don't fall into their just serving them without also serving your audience. And I think you've kind of shared that with us. We are probably out of time. What I'm going to do, hold on here. I got to so Kevin Owens had an answer, and we both love Kevin Owens. So let's give Kevin Owens some love here. He said, what is the best way to organically grow your IG following? You've kind of already answered this, and kind of maybe not in such a direct way, but I'd love to hear that kind of answer.
10x you're engaging with other people's accounts. And so sometimes that involves following people that are in your target audience. There's a lot of ways to do that. If you're farming a neighborhood right now, look at the local businesses in that area. They probably have Instagram pages. Go to their Instagram pages, start engaging with the people that follow that local business, because the people who are following that small local business in your farm area most likely live in that area. So start engaging with them, follow them. They're going to start noticing you, and they might even be like, oh my gosh, I see that guy all the time. And that's going to build your relevant following base. You don't just want anyone as follower to actually get business from Instagram. You want the right followers. And that's a really quick way and an easy way to grow not only your following, but to actually get relevant followers.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Shelby, we've got time for one more question, which is the signature question of the show. You're a big thinker. You help real estate agents also be big thinkers. I want to hear from you. What do you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand Shelby's possibilities? What does that look like for you?
So I knew you were going to ask this question, and I started thinking, like, how can I, have like a great answer? But it's so cliche, but it's really who you surround yourself with. Like, these conversations with you and people like you who already think big, that is what energizes me. And I notice that when I'm not connecting with people who are thinking bigger and who have big ambitions for their lives, you start to kind of like lose the juice a little bit, but then being around these bigger thinkers, it just naturally gets you started. And being a curious person, asking a ton of questions, Googling things, like having a sense of like wanting to know it all, or at least the general scope of things, so that you have an idea of what's out there, the possibilities. But the number one thing is who you surround yourself with. Who are those 5 people that you engage with the most? during the day and have in your corner. That's huge.
So good. So good. I would not have expected anything less than great. Shelby, thank you so much for everything that you've contributed. I'm grateful for you, grateful for the ongoing tutorial that you're offering to me, and now so many others who are going to be following you at your Instagram page, which is at Marketing for Realtors. If you're not yet following Shelby, please go follow her, learn from her. She's brilliant. And thank you so much, Shelby. And to everybody listening today, my simple request is this. Number one, go follow Shelby. Number two is to go think bigger. Thank you, Shelby, for helping us do that today. Such a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, Justin. Same here.